Everybody. Good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Coffee Break presented by Bath Fitter. We've got Mike Evans hanging out with us today, D-Mac, Rachel Veal for the next 45 minutes to an hour. We hope you all are having a wonderful Wednesday. Mike, how are you? Last
I'm
time
good, guys. How you
you
doing?
off the table.
What's that?
So last time I saw you is when I kicked you off the table.
Yeah, I got booted. I was like, here I am having a great time chopping it up with you guys, and then all of a sudden you just kind of elbowed me, said, "Get out of here."
Well, you
Technical.
All
should
right.
you shouldn't worry about it. The whole show went in the trash can, so it, that show never even saw the light of day. So it's the show that the world forgot, Mike. So don't.
Technical
Well,
difficulties. It's always a pain in the butt. But here we are. It is a Wednesday, and it is the 1 year anniversary of Russell Wilson coming to the Broncos. So 1 year ago today, probably at this time, we were actually learning that Aaron Rodgers decided, I don't want to come to Denver. We were all pretty heartbroken. And then a couple hours later, we were like, oh my gosh, some of the greatest news in Broncos history is coming out. But I feel like some people don't actually feel that same way anymore. So where do you both stand on the, are you still faith in Russ and you think good things are to come, or are you on the what the heck are we going to be doing for the future, Mike?
Boy, how things have changed in a year, huh? I think back to where I was and when I heard Zach Bye, this is not a drill. And you're right, because it was just an hour before so that we had found out that Aaron Rodgers was staying in Green Bay, and we were all kind of disappointed. And then Russell Wilson lands in our lap, and whoever tries to paint a revisionist picture is just wrong when you think about the overall reaction. When we got the news, it was just euphoria. It was immediately talking about Super Bowls and how many, and serving notice to Chiefs Kingdom that we're coming for you, all this stuff. And it was unbridled excitement, optimism, and joy. And to think that was just 1 year ago today, and then to find ourselves in the position we're in right now. Where am I right now with Russell Wilson? Look, I still believe that he can be salvaged, he can be fixed, but I think the most important thing is that you can't count on it. And so, yeah, Sean Payton can easily go into this with the idea that I'm confident I can fix Russ. Russ can be doing and saying all the right things, but by no means can it be all about Russ, because you just can't count and assume that Russ is going to bounce back. You have to go about it with the idea that it might not work out, and you better have a different direction that you're prepared to go in.
D-Mac?
we got fleeced. We didn't know. I mean, it was a disaster. And don't forget the euphoria that we were all going through because we got rid of Vic, and you had Justin Outen, score a lot of points, and Nathaniel Hackett at a variety of events. I mean, there was quite a exciting Broncos PR campaign leading up to it. So it was build, 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 build. Whoa. And we just, let's be honest, we hadn't been tracking Russell Wilson and all of his picadillos from Denver like they had in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And it just was like, we thought they were crazy. We thought they were nuts. And the value, like, who cares? All this sort of stuff. And of course, Mike gets the ultimate victory lap because he was the one guy really loudly saying, don't do this deal or be careful about the deal. And, Mike, you were totally right about that. Can you imagine if they didn't do the deal, it's a year, and now we're like, what? Like, say they didn't do that contract, and they didn't have to. They did not have to. What is the conversation like today about Russell Wilson? I'll throw that back to both of you guys on his 1 year anniversary. What if he did not get a new deal done?
I personally think people would be in a lot better position with Russ, because I think a lot of people look at the contract and they're like, well, what the heck? But I think at the same time, and Mick, I'm going to definitely let you answer this. What if Russ does turn it around and all of a sudden they're winning 10, 11 games and, they can go into the playoffs and they maybe win a wild card game or whatever it is? Then we're all looking at the same way, like Russ's contract, the way people are looking at Mahomes right now of like, well, hey, like this was actually a great deal. We got a steal, Mike.
Yeah, of course, that would be the case if it happens. Mm-hmm. But the Matthew Berry report, about him being on a 1 year audition, I don't find that exactly breaking news or anything like that's a bombshell that some people responded to it as being. And because, look, I think we all look at Russell Wilson he's already at a crossroads. His career has arrived at a crossroads. He's either going to fix himself, be fixed, and go on to be the quarterback over the second half of his career that he wants to be, that he thinks he can be, or this next year will prove that what happened last year was not a mirage, that he is in decline, that he did fall off the cliff, that he is washed, and at that point his career goes in a totally different direction. So yeah, this is a 1 year audition for Russell Wilson, and so I don't understand why the thinking is that somehow he's got 2-3 years to figure this out. Sean Payton came here with the understanding, and DMAC, you and I disagree on this. I don't think Russ got his guy, and they're enabling Russ or kowtowing to Russ. Yeah, Russ got somebody that he wants to coach him, but make no mistake, Sean Payton was brought in to fix the Broncos, not fix Russell Wilson. Hey, if along the way he can fix Russ this year, great. If not, see ya, and we move on.
Oh, I mean, Mike, though, he clearly got his guy. He wasn't calling all the coaches on the coaching list. And I don't doubt Matthew Berry at all. Us Syracuse guys got to stick together, We're truth tellers. But that being said, I also believe the report that Russell Wilson was trying to get Pete Carroll and Schneider fired.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But and part of that story is he wanted Sean Payton. Now, there's a difference between Russell Wilson getting his guy and Sean Payton getting his quarterback. And I think there's a big difference there. I have actually sort of come around to something, and it was inspired by you and Mark doing your top 5 list of backup quarterbacks. And what I realized is, yikes. Basically that, yikes. And I've changed because I was like, I get Mariota, and what about Winston? And now I'm just like, what am I talking about? Listen, it's all about Russ the end. And the thought that pushing him or challenging him is kind of ridiculous. Either you want to really succeed with Russ or you want to fail with Russ. Either way, you don't want to land somewhere in the middle and be ambiguous. They have $22.4 million of cap space this year. That's oh, I'm sorry. He only counts against the cap $22 million. That's not bad. There's 10 other quarterbacks in the NFL that's more. Next year, guys, it's $35 million, and the year after, $55.4. So you were in a good spot this year. Talk about no excuses. You can go out and surround Russ with as many tools as possible. So a backup quarterback, to use any extra pennies on a backup quarterback is a waste of time. This is it. This is absolutely a 1-year tryout from Russ. Because if it doesn't work here, you really do got to dump him and scrape your way back up. So align yourself with as much talent as you possibly can now that either works with Russ or could work with somebody else in the future. That's exactly what I think this year is about. So forget backup quarterbacks and all that. I don't care really who you get. Don't spend a lot of money. If you could get Teddy Bridgewater for $2 million, because you got to have a human being as a backup, or something like that. If you want to draft somebody 5th, 6th, 7th round as a developmental guy, we agree on that, Mike. We would do that every year. So I would just keep doing something like that. Other than that, let's go get guys and let's succeed or fail. We don't want to rise to the middle. It's got to be a success or a failure because you got to make a decision on Russ at the end of the year.
So, okay, you mocked my free agent quarterback list. I had Teddy Bridgewater second on my list. I had Gardner Minshew number 1. It's not like I'm, swinging for some big, huge backup quarterback fence. And I'm really surprised how you've changed your tune because during the season, you and I never agree on anything when it comes to quarterbacks, but we completely agreed when Baker Mayfield was out there, and you came out and said, and I completely agreed, hey, what are we trying to do here? If you can get a quarterback, bring in a quarterback that gives you a better chance to win, why in the world would you not do that? So I'm a little bit surprised now all of a sudden you've just punted on the idea of competition and creating an atmosphere or culture around there where, guess what? The best guy's going to play, no matter who he is and how much you're paying him and how much you drafted him for.
Mike, inherently that makes sense, but you've just given up too much value and too much money for Russ already. Normally, yes, you'd be right. In most normal circumstances. This is unusual because of the value you gave up for Russell Wilson and the money that's on the line not only now which is spent, but the money in the future. And to think that there's an even playing field here is ridiculous. It's not. And I have seen no evidence whatsoever that pushing Russell Wilson works. In fact, just the opposite. It seems to distract him and get in the way. So
how was he pushed last year? How was he pushed?
He wasn't pushed at all. But he's never been.
So why don't we try it? Why don't we try it that way?
But now you're talking about like you're experimenting. Here's what you have to lose. You may go 8 wins, 9 wins. I mean, that's the ultimate football purgatory. Hey man, Sean Payton was the one floating the talent of Caleb Williams and that the NFL should have a draft lottery. I mean, Slim Shawnee is putting that out there, trying to work his magic because he realizes we may win 5 or 6 games and not be able to get Caleb Williams. If things fall apart, I still want to have a shot at Caleb Williams or maybe Drake May or, whoever else is out there. You just got to believe this team is going to win a Super Bowl with Russ? See, once I figure out that you can't win a Super Bowl with a guy or he's not going to be successful, I'm ready to move on. Some places, whether you agree or disagree, the Giants think they can win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. The Jaguars think they can win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence. I'm not sure where the Ravens are right now with Lamar Jackson, but, they did tag him. They are willing to at least pay him $32 million for next year. So they believe they can win with him. Guys, do you really, seriously, honestly believe you can win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson in the AFC? Seriously.
You got to tell me which Russell Wilson I'm getting. Am I getting the Russell Wilson who just 2 years ago threw 40 touchdown passes?
You are not.
Or am I getting? Well, how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you?
Because Flacco. Because when Joe Flacco got here, he was washed. He was dipping, and then it was a decline. He was done. Guys don't, in their 30s, in general, go down and then skyrocket up. They don't. It goes away, and it stays away. And you become a backup quarterback like Joe Flacco with 5 kids all under the age of 6 years old that we were, again, hornswoggled by Elway telling us he was in his prime, which was a complete joke. And that's where Russell Wilson is, in my opinion.
All right, so then the question is, and the Seahawks are obviously signing Geno Smith to a contract extension. Was Geno Smith the competition in order to put Russ above what we saw last year? Like, was he that person that was a little bit of competition, maybe not in the spotlight, but he was the competition behind the scenes, and that's why Russ was able to perform so well? I mean, clearly Geno's a decent quarterback.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Geno over Russ's shoulder that had him throwing 40 touchdown passes. It was the coaching of Pete Carroll. It was the system that they had put in place in Seattle that we all realize now is best suited for Russ. And I think even Russ, I know that Russ comes across as completely oblivious, but I think even he now would realize that what he had in Seattle was actually pretty darn good. And so I don't think it's a matter of having a quarterback over his shoulder. Where I bring in the idea of pushing Russ is that when you have a system last year set up where it's all about Russ and Russ is given all these privileges and it's Russ. Yeah, I think that there needs to be a humbling of Russ, kind of wrapping him across the knuckles with a ruler type thing that, hey, look, it's going to be done differently. And one of the ways it's going to be done differently, it goes just beyond DMAC, you asking Peyton about Jake Heaps and special privileges in the building. It goes way beyond that. It also goes to the idea that, hey, I'm bringing in a quarterback, because this is the way I like to do it. And for when I talk about Sean Payton and the backup quarterback, it's not some idiot list. I did my homework. I did my research. Look at the quarterbacks that have backed up Drew Brees over the last 6-7 years in New Orleans. You got Luke McCown was 34 in his 10th year when he backed up. Chase Daniel was 31 in his 8th year. Teddy Bridgewater, 26th in his 4th year. Jameis Winston, 26th in his 6th year. So there is a pattern when it comes to Sean Payton and backup quarterbacks that I think lends to the list that we put together, but it also lends to the idea that, hey, as part of the message that Russ, things are going to be different this year, yeah, there's going to be competition and that we're going to have a backup quarterback that in theory will push you.
if the Seahawks didn't have the Broncos pick number 5, where would they be drafting this year?
Who, Seattle?
Yeah.
Low teens.
Ish. 23, 24, 25. I mean, something like that. First round playoff.
Yeah, Seattle.
Right.
Yeah, they'd be picking around what, 25th, 23rd?
Let me tell you, they have such a gift right now, which is ridiculous. I mean, their gift is amazing. So if they want to blow me away and draft Anthony Richardson out of Florida, who looks to be like the freakiest of freaky sort of quarterbacks, because this is crazy. They can literally get away with taking a chance because of that Broncos pick. Because you never, ever, ever want to be drafted top 5 other than what the Seahawks just did. Talk about a time to take a chance. It is ridiculous. And I'm sorry to say this, guys, but if the Broncos get Mike, who's your backup? Gardner Minshew?
Mm-hmm.
Gardner Minshew was the number 1 choice. Bridgewater was there. Baker was on the list. Cooper Rush.
Let me go down, and I like Gardner Minshew. Teddy, we know there's no future for Teddy. So I think there's a big difference between Gardner Minshew and Teddy. You get Teddy, you know it's just a backup, period. But, I mean, I'll give you a crazy what if. What if Russell got hurt in game 3? And Gardner Minshew won you 10 games and you got to the playoffs. Now what?
Then move along with Gardner Minshew and continue to develop that 5th, 6th, 7th round pick that we just agreed upon.
Ready to pay. Are you ready for this? You're ready to pay Gardner Minshew $30 million a year for the next 3 years.
Front loaded for the first year or two? Sure, why not? Under your scenario, yeah. If you're winning 10 games, you're winning 10 games in the AFC West, sure, why not?
But here's the problem. You don't have
in fantasy land
like the Seahawks did. You got Gardner Minshew. Period. Like, we are rolling with Gardner freaking Minshew. My point is, there is no good backup quarterback scenario because I don't believe any of them are going to be worth. Like, I think Geno Smith, that is crazy, paying him $30 million. The only thing that kind of makes it okay, if they're smart, is they can also get a quarterback for the future at the same time so he can be mentored for a couple of years. I mean, if that works out for them, they are geniuses, beyond genius. But if they just take a pass rusher at 5, you're hanging it all out with Geno. And they shouldn't have the 5th pick. So, Mike, even if they're successful with Gardner Minshew, right, and you move on from Russ, you're stuck with Gardner Minshew, who's getting older and who knows. This is why, hey, man, let me make it really clear. I want to get rid of Russ and George Payton all at the same time. I wanted to post June 1st designate Russ, and I just wanted to get rid of George Payton because I think we're just making things cloudy. And that's what I think things are. And things are cloudy because Greg Penner doesn't know what the hell he's doing right now, and he's depending on George Payton. This is all on Russ. This is all on Russ, so I don't want to hear about anything else. And challenging Russ isn't the answer. Supporting Russ with great players is the answer.
Rachel, I'm so glad we're getting a chance to do this because now we can really get to the meat of the problem here, okay? And D-Mac, I'm so glad you're here. So now we can strip away all the pretense, and you can just take this moment here on the 1-year anniversary of Russell Wilson being traded to the Broncos and just admit that your only agenda right now is to be proven right before they put you in the ground that you can win in Denver with a top 5 quarterback. And that's what this is all about. You want Russell Wilson to fail. You're rooting for Russell Wilson to fail. You're pissed off at George Payton. You want him to fail because he had the audacity to take Patrick Surtain over Justin Fields, which is still, in your mind, an unforgivable sin. And you were never really on board with Slim Shawnee either because you recognize that Sean Payton, actually, of all the coaches that they talked with, is the one coach that's a legitimate coach. And the last thing you want him to do is wring some extra wins out of this team, which will shatter your ultimate goal and agenda of seeing the Broncos be so bad that they have to draft a quarterback in the top 5 so that you can eventually, ultimately feel like you got the last laugh. Am I right? Let's be clear.
I haven't been proved wrong yet. So to be right is my only option. So I'm not looking to have people fail. I never have, and I have a tattoo to prove that I don't want people to necessarily fail. That doesn't change me being right about all of the things that you just said. You say it in a mocking tone.
What are you
You
right
say it
about?
in a mocking tone as if I should be embarrassed to be right.
What are you right about?
Sorry, I was
What are you right about?
right.
What are you right? You're right about Justin Fields over Pat Surtain?
A million times over.
Oh.
And if you would rather have Mac Jones, fine. You know who a great cornerback is? Sauce Gardner. When was he drafted? The next year after Surtain. Did you watch the combine at all on the cornerbacks? It is loaded with 4'3" guys who are 6 feet tall. Okay, and in the
But you
NFL,
don't have to draft 9 overall. You can get these. Look, all these athletes playing quarterbacks are going to just be pouring into the NFL over the next decade. You do not have to overdraft one. You can just get an athlete, let him play quarterback, let him run around, and use him up after 5 or 6 years. Maybe you get lucky and he develops into a passer during that time, but you certainly don't have to spend a top 10 pick on one of these guys.
Mike, it is what it is. I'm sorry to break your bubble. It just doesn't exist the way that you want it to exist. These guys just aren't out there in a reliable manner in the second, third, and even fourth round. Anthony Richardson must drive you bananas because there's no way you can like Anthony Richardson. He's going to be a top 10 pick, as is Will Levis, Stroud, and Bryce Young. Whether you like it or not, that's the way it goes. So you can howl at the moon all you want, or you can accept reality. And these top guys go early, as they should. So do tackles and pass runners. Cornerbacks, you can get cornerbacks. Jalen Ramsey is about to get on another team, and he's like the best cornerback out there. We have the best cornerback. 5-12, Mikey. 5-12 and eaten alive by Devontae Adams of the Raiders.
And the guy that you said would fix everything here just quarterbacked the team to the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So you'll have to excuse me if I'm not blown away by the impact of Justin Fields either.
Clearly, because he's so terrible, because he's so bad, the Bears clearly will move on for him, right?
No, they shouldn't, because I'm not buying Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud either.
Of course you're not.
Of course I'm not.
Who are you buying? All right, hey. All right, this will be fun.
This is incredible.
Who are you buying this year?
From the quarterback class?
Yeah.
As a top 3 pick? Nobody.
Any quarterback. Nobody.
You know why?
Nobody.
Because I've been sold on all of the Kyler Murrays and Baker Mayfields and Carson Wentz's and Marcus Mariota's and Jameis Winston's. I'm done. Okay? You want to claim that you're right about everything. Dude, man, these quarterbacks that go in the top 5 have like a what? Less than 10% success rate over the last decade?
Quarterbacks in the top 15 or so. Forget about the top 5. I don't care about the top 5.
All right, top 10. Top 10, you've got maybe 1 out of every 5 quarterbacks who get taken in the top 10 are truly stars.
The hit percentage.
You said yesterday that
36. It's 36%. Yep. If you look at the success percentage by basically any metrics of quarterbacks taken basically in the top 15 over the past 10 years. But don't let facts get.
I'll do my own research. Thank you.
Go for it. Go for it.
I will. Absolutely.
Tell me whatever metrics you're like. Don't use winning a Super Bowl or getting to the Super Bowl, as only 4% of quarterbacks ever. 4% of quarterbacks.
How about still being with the team that drafted them?
That doesn't matter.
As a starting point.
That is absolutely
my first metric. Is he actually still with the team that drafted him?
Doesn't matter.
All right, I'm calling timeout, you guys. You two are fantastic. I see everybody in the comments.
But just really quick, Mike likes no quarterbacks this year, Rachel. Nobody.
Not in the top 5. In the top 5, no.
But Mike, you couldn't name one quarterback even in the second and third round you take this year. Who?
I like Hooker from Tennessee. I like McConnell from Purdue.
Mike likes a guy with a torn ACL.
Why are you rubbing your eyes? I mean, see, this is your problem. It's you look at Mel Kiper and Todd McShay's mock draft, and as long as they have quarterbacks listed in the in the first round, they become your boys. They're your
Dude,
guys.
That is such a
Do your
worn
own
out, tired.
research.
That is such a worn out, tired trope. It's ridiculous. You want to go to the NFL mock draft database. You can see an accumulation of more than 50 mock drafts in terms of names that come up over and over. To say that I just look at McShay and Kuiper is just a lie, frankly.
So what you're saying, what he's admitting here, Rachel, is he does no independent quarterback study of his own. He simply takes 5,000 mock drafts and puts his list together based out of that. Everybody else's opinion but yours, right?
Yeah, I've always
you don't have an opinion,
Mike. I've always studied the draft like that. And if we got to narrow in on guys, that is when I do a lot of my own independent work. I didn't see you up in Laramie. I was there with Johnny Love and Cecil. You weren't.
I know. And I know. You still regret the fact that you did not buy Josh Allen.
I didn't pick up the chicken fingers.
I've heard that story. I mean, if I played the drinking game of how many times I've heard that, I'd be hammered right now.
All right. You guys, you two both are so funny. I will say, though, being like the tiebreaker here, I'm with Mike just based on the quarterback situation. If I don't always feel comfortable with what we get out of the draft, and I don't think necessarily they have super high percentages of success. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks that have done nothing, that have been picked first or in the first 10 picks. But that's besides the point.
Careful, Rachel. That's going to lead DMAC to stalking you on Twitter. I'm just telling you what you're opening yourself open to, okay?
Listen.
Trust me. Take it from one who knows.
It's hard being so right for so long because it's been so painful in the world of the Broncos. How about this? They've tried everybody else's philosophy except for mine. How about giving me a shot this year? And that's why, listen, we are.
I'll tell George Payton to call you up.
Don't have him call me unless it's getting a U-Haul out of town. I mean, that's. By the way, it's not just the Russell Wilson deal with him. You realize one of the big issues we have is that pass rush. And we may have to spend big free agency money on a pass rush because we have no idea how many games Randy Gregory is going to play. Another horrific deal. Brought back Melvin Gordon. Another terrible deal. I mean, there are so many bad moves by George Payton. It is really remarkable. It's a good thing he knew where the bathrooms were because other than showing Greg Penner that, he wouldn't have had much purpose this year.
So
but you understand, Rachel.
Bad things, and that's somehow he's not problem number one for DMAC. That it's shocking that he keeps giving me more and more bad things that George Payton has done, but yet he's not problem number one. Go ahead, Mike.
Rachel, do you understand? As DMAC says all this stuff, all these complaints would all go away. You wouldn't hear any of them if only George Payton had taken Mac Jones.
Yep.
I'm telling you.
That is true.
You're admitting that?
We'd be in the playoffs.
Oh my god. Okay.
Playoffs.
We're gonna move on to in hot water because are the Broncos, how hot is the water going to be for the Broncos if Russell Wilson does indeed not play well next year, but they have to figure out the cap space? And can they afford to move on from the quarterback if he really does suck next year? Because it's a big number.
It's a reasonable question, but the truth is, if he plays poorly, nobody's in hot water because everything is really easy to decide. George Payton will be gone, and so will Russell Wilson. The best thing we can hope, like I've said, is for him to play really bad or I'm wrong. Seriously, everybody should root for me to be wrong on this one. And Russell Wilson has 12 wins in the playoffs, and it's a 90-90 boo-boo. It's all about Hackett, DMAC, and you were wrong from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Although there's a lot of ways to get to 12 wins if you have a very conservative quarterback play and you have a great offensive line and a great pass rush. There's a lot of ways.
12? Do you realize only 5 teams in the entire AFC got to 10 wins last year?
Mike, what do you think they're going to be with Russ? Mike, I think they're going to be at 8, which would be 4 wins over what Russ got last year. What do you have on that?
I don't know. What are they going to do in free agency? What are they going to do? Who are they going to cut? It's too early for me to be able to make predictions like that.
What they're going to do?
Yeah, sure. You tell us.
They're going to pick up Andrews Pete or another free agent left guard to replace Reiser. They're going to let Draymond Jones go and pick up another pass rusher, either interior or on the outside. That's where big money's going to go. They're going to stay with Jonas Griffith and maybe sign Alex Singleton if the number comes down. They'll probably move on from Darby and get themselves a free agent cornerback too, and hopefully Damari Mathis works out. They will draft a right tackle with their first pick of the third round, and they'll sign back like Calvin Anderson or somebody else to be his backup. They'll also pick up David Montgomery as a running back to go with Javonte Williams and maybe sign Latavius Murray. That's what they're going to do. They're going to try to trade Cortland Sutton for a box of Cheetos and some Chick-fil-A coupons. But if they can't do that, they'll probably just release him. And we're going to ride with little Jordan Humphrey in terms of their fourth receiver. And Jerry Jeudy's about to have the best year of his career. That's what they're going to do.
So, Rachel, you asked the question about what's at stake this year if it doesn't work out. Honestly, I don't think it's that big of a problem, because one of the beauties of hiring Sean Payton is you get a guy who has job security. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be here as long as he wants.
That's
and
true.
So he doesn't have to, if you hire a D'Amico Ryans or another first-time coach, immediately the clock's ticking on this guy.
True.
And there's an urgency that can lead to panic, that can lead to short-sighted moves. So the beauty of this year is, and I think Sean Payton's already shown it to us, look, we're Broncos country. We've been going through these last 6 years. We've been living it, breathing it for every single day. But Payton has already sent a very clear message in the hiring of Vance Joseph, and before that, the interest of bringing back Vic Fangio. He doesn't care what's happened here the last 6 years, and nor should he. For him, it's a clean slate. He's starting fresh. He's got his own idea of how to do things, and he's certainly not going to be burdened by what we're saying about what's gone on around here the last 6 years. So, from that standpoint, I think it's encouraging that, hey, he's got to do his best to make it work with Russell Wilson. If it works, great. Otherwise, he starts from scratch in year 2, and he'll put his fingerprints all over this thing.
Okay. I think it's going to be interesting. It's just, obviously, the cap is so big for Russ that you do let him go. I mean, what the heck? Because they're gonna.
Yeah, but don't sweat the cap, because this isn't hockey where, hey, good news, the salary cap's going up by a whopping $1 million next year.
That's
So
true.
says Gary Bettman. This cap within the next 3-4 years is going to be, $40-50 million more than it is right now. So when it comes to absorbing some of these bad contracts, it's going to become a lot more palatable over the next couple of years.
Mike, that is a great point that I have not even thought of, yet we see the cap go up all the freaking time. Brilliant. Okay, well, ESPN released a list of...
He's not the only one that's right all the time.
Feels like it.
All right, ESPN released a list of the best and worst signings for each team in the NFL since 2018, and it's very interesting because for their best signing, they have Kareem Jackson, and for the worst signing, they have Juwan James. Where do both of these players rank on your best and worst, D-Mac?
Well, I love Kareem Jackson, but the fact that he's your best free agent signing is really terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you want a more impactful player than a safety, strong safety, linebacker, basically. I like Kareem, too. I like him. Juwan James was horrific. It was another boy, it's hard to top him. That's how bad that was. Because the Broncos made him the highest paid right tackle. I think he played maybe 60 total plays. Like 60 total plays. Not games, total plays. I mean, it's ridiculous. Gosh, that's since 2018. Well, I can't really argue that. I'm trying to think, like, who else sort of comes to mind that made a big impact. It certainly wouldn't be Randy Gregory. Wouldn't be Alex Singleton. I mean, Mike, who would it be? I mean, I guess that's right.
Yeah, they've had a couple of nice, solid additions. So that's Kareem Jackson. Alex Singleton was a solid. I like DJ Jones. DJ Jones was a really nice pickup, but no. And
who they signed in 2018 though, guys, was Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
This is how pathetic things are. They actually did sign a free agent quarterback who became your starter, and he doesn't come front to mind. I mean, that's how. Listen, man. As much as I know George Payton blew it in 2021, it pales in comparison. And never mind, Mike, what you're about to say. I said, don't worry about that. Think about what existed, okay? And in 2018, I mean, how do we live this down? That you took Bradley Chubb over Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Forget anything else. those two were both available, and look at them now. So you want to just talk about talent evaluation and how bad John Elway was as a general manager in talent assessment. That is the whiff of all time in Broncos history. The whiff of all time. And the fact that in 2018 we signed Teddy Bridgewater and it doesn't even come off our lips as a top free agent signing is another pathetic example.
Yeah, you can't go through what we've gone through the last 6 years and really start talking about free agents that stand out.
And I'm sorry, 2018 was Case Keenum too. Sorry, I'm bad. 2021 that was 2021 was the terrible Teddy Bridgewater thing. 2018 was Case Keenum. Just to be clear, there's two free agent quarterbacks that we signed that were disasters. Not one, but two. So I was right again, just slightly off.
Although I do remember prior to Case Keenum signing how you were stalking Kirk Cousins at the Mall of America in Minneapolis, begging him to come to Denver.
What?
And then
right.
when he turned the Broncos down, you quickly pivoted by saying, "Well, I don't want a guy who's got his own office in Minnesota anyway."
Well, we were moving on at that point. That is true. That is funny to say that because we were like, he is a quirky guy, no doubt about it. And that actually, Mike, I got to give you credit on that one. We did at the time say it was a negative to go after big money, a quirky dude.
Right.
Who knew? Really? Seriously?
Who knew that we were just scratching the surface on quirkiness?
Oh my God. Wait, I need the story of you stalking Kirk Cousins in Mall of America real quick.
There was a time and day where the radio station in Hull went to the Super Bowl. We liked it. It was fun.
Yeah.
And
we call it the golden era.
The golden age of radio. 2018. We were in the Mall of America. Now, you want to talk about a lousy place to have a Super Bowl. Think about Minneapolis in February. I mean, New York was bad. That was worse. But saving grace, they did everything in the Mall of America. I mean, everything. The Patriots stayed on one side of the mall in a hotel. The Eagles stayed on the other side of the mall in a hotel. The media was in the food court at the Mall of America. And you would think, wow, that sounds pretty small for Radio Row. It was. No. We were.
No. You're right. It was. It was tight.
Not like the food court area was gargantuan, but where they put the media, we were really like on top of each other. So at the time, we knew Kirk Cousins was available, but the way they do media is that's very tightly scheduled from one table to another. But we are sitting on top of each other. So here's Kirk Cousins like 3 tables away, but he might as well have been in 3 time zones away because he wasn't doing interviews with us. He was doing interviews with others, but I didn't care. I just sort of got up, walked over, put my phone in his face, and I really was like stalking him because like for a couple of days, he was just moving like all around us, but never landing with us. So every day I was just kind of like, hey, Kirk, what's going on there? Kirk, how you doing? Nice sweater. So, that was that's that story.
Okay, well, that's something interesting, D-Mac, and it does.
Another really quick, funny one. C.J. Anderson was with the Broncos. He couldn't get into Radio Row. He didn't have the right credential, and I tried to say, no, he doesn't have the right credential. The next year, he's on a Super Bowl team, like being interviewed at the Super Bowl because he was with the Rams. So it was, the wacky world of the media and radio. But the Mall of America trip was.
But it was a trip. Imagine like it was so crowded, so cramped. It literally was like, hey, where are you guys at? Oh, we're over by Panda Express. You can't miss us.
We were right in front of was it Shake Shack or Steak Shack?
Shake Shack. Some shake, steak or Fat Shack, something like that. Yeah.
We were in front of some sort of shack.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's definitely different than my Super Bowl experience from this year. I can tell you that much. I was not by any food courts, but I bet it did smell good, so at least you probably had options for food.
No, it didn't smell good. It smelled like Shake Shacks and Panda Express and Taco Bell.
Did they have, were the restaurants open? Like, could you go get
Yeah.
I'm not arguing about
Hey, man. Hey, don't talk bad about food courts. I'm a big food court fan. I love food courts. So much variety.
All right, Mike, I know you wrote an article for DenverSports.com talking about the tough choice of who's going to go further in the playoffs? Is it going to be the Colorado Avalanche or is it going to be the Denver Nuggets? So I'm curious. I'm going to ask DMAC first and then we'll get back to you. But DMAC, who is going to go further in the playoffs this year?
Well, it's going to be the Nuggets, and I'll give you an advanced stat why. They're the best clutch defensive team in the league, and they're 2 times the clutch defensive team in the league by twice as much over the Sixers. I won't bore you with the specific analytics, and I hardly thought of it or came up with it, but I read it yesterday for Brian Windhorst of ESPN, and that's a great article. I advise you to get into it. So ultimately, the reason is in the NBA this year, when it matters the most, the Nuggets have played the best defensively. They're the best three-point shooting team in the league. Can't make up those numbers. And they have the MVP. They have 2 max contract players who are both playing out of their brains, maybe the best they've ever played in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. And their support players of KCP, one of the best defenders in the league, and Aaron Gordon, who's having a career year, are just top-notch. With Bruce Brown coming off the bench, and then you use Jeff Green, Vlatko Čančar, guys like that. I don't know if they're really going to count on Reggie Jackson or Thomas Bryant. I don't think it even really matters because you're just going to shorten your bench anyway. And they show that Aaron Gordon can play the 5. And they may be in a stagger rotation where he's just on the court a little bit longer at different times than Nikola Jokic. So the fact that they're the best shooting team and the best defensive team with the MVP, to me, guys, means they have a better shot than an Avalanche team that's going to make the playoffs. I was looking at the standings today. For them to miss the playoffs, they'd have to really fall off the face of the earth. And a team like Calgary would have to sort of come on from nowhere. So they're going to make the playoffs, barely. I mean, they may be the 7th or 8th seed, but they'll make it. But we saw what happened against Dallas, guys. And that is scary stuff to me. So I say the Nuggets and the Avalanche behind them. I know Mike thinks differently, but that's my reasoning why.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't care about what happened in that Dallas game. As the great Sandy Clough once said, you can't manufacture desperation. Dallas was laying in wait. That was a measuring stick game. That was the litmus test game. They came out with Western Conference Finals type intensity that the Avalanche at this point of the season just grinding. They just want to get this thing over with. We're not going to be able to match. And once that game gets away, it gets away in a bad way. So I welcome the opportunity to play Dallas again. And part of the reason why I went with the Avalanche is, hey, maybe the Nuggets will win an NBA championship. And if they do, we'll be able to look at Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon the same way that we look at Mikko Rantanen and Valeri Nichushkin and Nathan McKinnon alongside their team's respective MVPs, Cale Makar and Nikola Jokic. But they haven't done it yet. They just haven't. And this Avalanche team we can trust this Avalanche team. Nothing that's gone on in this regular season has surprised me. This is a team that is just simply looking to get through the grind. And this is not a team that lacks confidence. It's a team right now that's just trying to find periodic pockets of motivation to get through the regular season. But I have absolutely no doubt that when the playoffs start, they're going to be ready to go. And here's the other big difference between the Avs and Nuggets: getting to the finals. The Western Conference for the Avs last year, I didn't sweat anybody in the West except for St. Louis, and St. Louis did put up a bit of a fight. St. Louis has been dismantled. St. Louis is a shell of themselves, and I'm sorry, I just don't see another team in the West that's kind of filled that vacuum. And so I think that the Avalanche really, there's nobody in the West, not even Dallas. I don't see anybody that can beat this team 4 times. Now, for the Nuggets, it's until Golden State is dead and buried and the stakes driven through their heart, I'm not going to count out Golden State. And Phoenix, while I acknowledge that they're trying to put this thing together on the fly with only about 20 games to gel, that's an issue. Their depth is an issue, but man, their top four is daunting. And so just for those reasons alone, I think the Avs' path to the finals is easier than the Nuggets.
The problem with, and I respect Golden State and Phoenix, but they haven't proved defensively that either team can stand up. And the Nuggets, with home court advantage throughout, have there's a crazy stat. First of all, they've only lost 4 times at home the whole year. They've only lost 1 time at home when they've scored 120 points. And that was by 1 point to Dallas in overtime, okay? I mean, they are just basically unbeatable at home. So I'm just going to take that all the way to the final. And then, I think they're probably going to – Boston's sliding a pinch. Just a pinch, and the Bucks are playing awful well and have Giannis. So we'll see what happens at that point. Listen, Mike, I hope you're. Well, I don't necessarily hope. I hope both teams are in the
I hope
finals.
both. Yeah, exactly. Let's have
I
two
mean, my
parades.
my my dream scenario: Monday it's the Avs against the Bruins. Tuesday it's the Nuggets against the Celtics. Wednesday it's the Avs against the Bruins. Thursday it's the Nuggets against the Celtics, and then let's go do that again in Boston. I mean, that would be for me that would be amazing. And I'm not sure how that lines up with the NFL or NHL Stanley Cup Final and the NBA. Maybe Jake would know better about that, but
Yeah,
that would be the dream scenario.
yeah, the NBA finals will start a week before the Stanley Cup finals. I think it's June 1st versus June 8th. So if we have two parades, you're basically looking at the Nuggets parade would be around June 20th. The Avs parade would be around June 26th, 27th.
Nice.
So listen, Colorado's going to become a dry state. It's going to be like Prohibition came to Colorado because there's not going to be a beer to be found anywhere.
I will help you support your argument just a little bit, Mike, on this. I talked to Cale Makar after the game last night, and I said, "Did you need to win?" And he goes, "That's an interesting question," because he didn't like the concept of needing to win. What he said was, because he said we should have the confidence that we're always going to win. So it's a little offensive to say you need to win. But he did say we needed to play like we did today against this team that was coming in off a back-to-back. So they didn't need like they're desperate, but they do need to play well against teams and scenarios that they should. So that's why. So he didn't want to feel like they're desperate. It was a little bit of an attitude, which I respect, but it was definitely like we needed to do what we did though. We have to have our best guys play the best, and they did last night.
And then what makes their performance against San Jose so important to me is that it comes right on the heels of Jared Bednar calling out his top guys.
That's right.
And his top guys weren't good in the Dallas game. And what I love about this hockey team, and it's why their performance against San Jose, and I know San Jose is a lousy team, but it's the thoroughness, it was the dominating nature of the way they played that shows that this is still a team that's bought in enough that when their coach recognizes, hey, these guys need to be called out a bit, and he goes to that card, that the team responds. Yeah. And that all the best players had really good games against the Sharks. So that's really encouraging to me because it shows that during the long slog of this season that Jared Bednar, when he decides to come out and call his guys out, that his guys immediately respond. And I think that's a really positive sign as we get set for the playoffs.
I do too. I agree with you. And it wasn't a 4-2 win with an empty netter, guys. It was 6-0 after 2 periods. They outshot the Sharks 43-13. It was a complete and utter beatdown that you took their best player, Carlson, and had him hucking his helmet across the ice and getting booted out. And, I mean, you did what you chased the goalie. You humiliated the team. They got a tough test against the Kings tomorrow night, and they did so with a little bit of rest. And they supported Georgiev, who needed a game like that. It wasn't a tough game for him. He only faced 13 shots. But nice. You got a shutout. You played exactly how you needed to play. So you played how you needed to play. You didn't need to win the game. How about that? So I think that's a great sign for everything.
The message was heard, and that was important, and it shows a lot of respect for Jared Bednar, which we know he has in that locker room. The interesting part of your column, Mike, was I think the Nuggets are going to go further, but if the Avs become healthy right before the playoffs or in the first round of the playoffs, they're tough to beat, man. And we know that, and we know that they can have bounce-back games too. So I don't know. I'm with both of you. I obviously hope that they both can go all the way. Like, it would be so much fun to be down here in Denver. But
and Rachel, please, and let me, and because I know it's funny because you're picking between the Avs and the Nuggets. You'd think, oh well, everyone's fans of both teams. Who cares? But there's such a passionate core Avalanche following. There's such a passionate core Nuggets following, and I'm sure that some of these Nugget fans were mad that I picked the Avs. And my only message would be, look, I love this Nuggets team, and I desperately want this team to go to the NBA Finals. I am sick and tired of the way that the NBA and its mouthpieces promote the individual over the team, that they talk about super teams. You've got a Nuggets team that has been built the right way. They play the right way in a league that's all about load management and guys taking nights off and teams just saying, hey, we're saving ourselves for the playoffs. You get pretty much every single night with the Nuggets a professional workmanlike effort. And that's something I want to see get rewarded so that the rest of the NBA has to just choke on it.
Yeah, and don't get it wrong. We do want both teams, but it's been 20 years too since a city has hosted both the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Final. 20 years.
Who was it? Who did it?
Jake. Let's have Jake check on the back end.
Oh, was it the Rangers?
New Jersey.
New York?
New Jersey. The
Jersey.
Nets?
Was it
Yeah.
the Nets and the Devils?
Yep.
Wow.
No kidding.
20 years, guys.
Oh, man, you could win a great bar bet with that one. I never would have gone with that one.
Wow. Tony Soprano and crew must have been rolling in the dough back then. Damn.
All right.
I would have
Real quick, I
never,
wanna give
ever
this-
guessed that.
I want to give you guys an update because obviously March Madness is coming up and we're getting really excited, but the conference tournaments are going on. Syracuse is currently losing right now, you guys. 46-41. There's 4 minutes left in the second half.
It's time for Boeheim to go. Time to go.
Okay.
See, Rachel, here's what
He was coaching there when me and D-Mac were there as freshmen.
That is
go. Time to go.
The thing about going to a real school with a real basketball program is that it's not like, oh my God, we made the tournament. If they don't make the tournament, it's like one of the worst years. We don't even pay attention to it. It's like that. So maybe we're really, Syracuse not in the tournament. Mike, since we graduated in the early 90s, how many times have they not made the tournament? 5 or 6 times?
5 or 6. So no, they don't deserve there. They don't belong there. Put them out of their misery.
Wow. Okay.
Let's go.
We do got our prop shops for tonight. So there's 3 games going on in Colorado. We got Fresno State versus Colorado State. Who you got?
Go Rams. #Asunder. I don't know anything about it, but Fresno's the Bulldogs, and you got a Ram. I'll take a Ram over a Bulldog.
I love it.
Yeah, I'll take CSU. I still think that they've still got some of the leftovers from last year's team. I think it shows up in the tournament.
All right, go Rams. Of course, I'm going with the Rams. We got Colorado versus Washington from the Pac-12.
Again, I'll go with a Buffalo over a Husky. It's too rainy in Seattle. Go Buffs.
Oh,
Yeah, go Buffs.
If Dion shows up, it's worth at least 5 points.
By the way, I got to quickly mention this. Have we ever had a worse year on the Front Range for college basketball? I added it all up. CSU, Air Force, Wyoming, CU, and I'll even throw UNC in there. A combined 65 and 90 this year in college basketball.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's
Wow.
Smokes, that's awful. All right, we got
only CU finished above 500 out of all those teams, and they were 16 and 15.
Kyle, I didn't even realize I was wearing CU colors. Wow.
Yes, look at that.
Wow.
Slightly disgraceful. Okay. We got Air Force versus UNLV. We got.
I'll take a running Reb because he's got a gun, and that's bad news for a Falcon.
Okay. I like it was all about the mascots with D-Mac.
Yes, yeah, it's all about that. That's how he picks his brackets.
I know he's got a muzzle load, and it's only one shot at the time, but seriously, what's the Falcon gonna do?
Fly away.
I got you on that, but at the end of the day, you're standing strong. I think the Rebs win that one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Wyoming and New Mexico, a cowboy and a lobo. What exactly is a lobo?
Isn't a lobo a cowboy?
Isn't that a cowboy? I think it is.
Cowboy and lobos are the same thing.
No, it's a wolf. Jake just told me it's a wolf.
Lobo's a wolf.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. Yeah. Ooh, a wolf against a cowboy? I'll take the cowboy.
I'll totally take the cowboy unless it's at night. And if it's at night, the wolf might come in and, the cowboy's asleep. So what time is the game at?
I think
5. 5 o'clock.
5?
Well, the cowboy will be awake.
That's bad. That's bad. That means a second half comeback by the Lobo.
Unless it's a Yellowstone cowboy. If it's Rip, don't worry about it.
Take it to the train station.
You're speaking to my heart there. I love how we went with the mascots for this one. As always, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us in the comments. Meg, thank you so much for hanging with us too. And we'll be back tomorrow
at
10:30 a.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye.